Welcome back to another episode of the Inquisitive Mamba podcast. This is episode 183. I hope everyone is having a great day, great night, wherever you are around the world. So much to get into on today's show. What a win for the Michigan Wolverines last night. Their first national championship, national title since 1989. Remarkable feat for that team there. It was a team of destiny. They were the favorite to win it. I think before the tournament, of course, next to Florida, Duke, and Arizona. But hats off to Michigan. They had a great game. We'll break that all down. But before we officially get into the show, make sure to follow us on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts. I can't thank you guys for the continuous support week in and week out with YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. We're almost at 1,000 followers on Instagram. We're almost at 1,700 on TikTok. So we thank you guys for the support. We're almost at 1,600 subscribers on YouTube. Like I said, a lot to get into on today's show. UConn 6-0 before last night's national championship game against Michigan, losing their first national title. We'll talk a little bit about the NFL with Kirk Cousins signing with the Raiders, Dexter Lawrence, the trade situation there, if he's going to get traded, the Red Sox and how bad they have been, sitting now at 2-8 in the MLB, the worst record in the MLB. Fans were chanting, "Sell the team," at Fenway to John Henry, who's been the owner since 2001. We'll talk about that. We'll briefly talk about Joe Adell's insane game he had this past weekend, robbing 3 home runs. Was it the greatest defensive game ever in the sport of the MLB? I'll give you guys my opinion about that. But I'm ready to get into the show. And if I missed anything else from the introduction, you're going to hear about it from me. But like I said, I'm ready to get into it. What a game last night for Michigan, winning 69-63. Oh, sorry, guys. Talk a little bit about the Final Four, of course. UConn beating Illinois. Won't get too much into that. And then, of course, Michigan dismantling, Arizona. I'll briefly talk about that, the 91-73 score, how most people thought Arizona, would win it all. All right. I want to talk about last night's game, Michigan versus UConn. Well, of course, if you're a bettor out there, you saw the spread at -6.5. And of course, the end of the game, UConn covered the spread. I mean, you can't make this up. Absolutely insane, if you ask me. But no, I want to take a little bit more of a deeper dive into the game. Michigan shot 2 of 15 from three, 13% from the field. They shot 89% from the free throw line. And the thing about it is, you look at it, you go, Michigan shot 2 of 15 and they won the game. Yaxel Lendenborg wasn't fully healthy and they won the game by 6. If Yaxel Lendenborg was fully healthy, they would have won that game by a lot more. But hey, I'm going to give UConn credit where credit is due. They battled in that game the entire way. I don't want to say they didn't have any business being on the floor with Michigan, but I think if Yaxel was healthy, that game would have been a total different story. And of course, the people out there we're going to take a sidestep away from the game for a second. We're going to go into roster construction and how all that goes, because my mind's moving a mile a minute with everything going on from last night's game, because I'm so frustrated to hear that people are dismantling or discrediting this Michigan team. Michigan is the first team in college basketball history, win or loss, which they won last night, to have 5 players starting that were transfers. Burnett, Mara, Lendeborg, Cadeau, and oh my God, who's the other guy? Oh my God, I have it right here. Oh my God, I can't believe I'm blanking on this. Here it is, right here. Cadeau, Lendeborg, Johnson. That's right, Morris Johnson. Right. Okay. So Michigan had 5 transfers. But isn't that the name of college basketball and college sports now in general? Like, what did Michigan do wrong? They had a $10 million roster. The other teams, you can name, Kentucky had a more high-paid roster than they did. BYU did. So it's like Michigan didn't do anything wrong. And if your team won the championship, you would have felt that you wouldn't have been complaining. You would have been, oh yeah, we won the championship. Ohio State in football basically bought their roster for the championship last year when they beat Notre Dame. So this isn't anything new. So people are just nitpicking to complain. I have no problem with what Michigan did. I thought it was remarkable that you had 5 transfers and you won the championship. Your roster, okay, the roster was bought, but they weren't the highest paid roster in college basketball. That was my little tidbit there. But going back to the game here, I thought it was a great game. It was very neck and neck throughout the entire game. UConn was gritty. They almost came back in the end, but Trey McKinney shut the door. Michigan didn't play their best game. They didn't play their best brand of basketball. But one thing I'll say is the fact that how they willed their way to win that game, UConn was scrappy. They really were. So Michigan was the best team in college basketball all year. They only lost 3 games. They lost to Duke, they lost to Wisconsin, and they lost to Purdue. Lost to Purdue in the Big Ten championship. They lost to Duke in the regular season, and then they lost to Wisconsin in the regular season. So it was inevitable. They were the best team in the tournament, I think, from start to finish. I strongly think that the Gators would have gave them a run for their money because they match up with them size-wise. I don't think they would have beaten them just because I think with the experience of Michigan's guard play and how Dusty May had those guys playing this entire year, I think Florida would have gave them a game. I don't think they would have won, but they were a team of destiny. I want to give my friends a shout out, my friends that are Michigan fans. Congratulations to you guys on winning the tournament, winning it all. I know you guys have, suffered some years. You had the 2013 loss, you had the 2018 loss, 2013, of course, to Louisville, 2018 to Villanova. So, and you guys, made your first Final Four, since 2018, your first national title since 1989. So they deserve it. They were the best team in college basketball, I think, all year round. And another 1 seed won the tournament. And that's what you kind of have to go back to. Like we said last year on the podcast, and we can bring this back up. The days of the Cinderella runs are over. The 1 seeds, the powerhouses like Michigan, the Dukes, Duke hasn't won since 2015, but the powerhouses like that are going to continue to win. Of course, now with NIL, it has reshaped, it has changed college basketball, it has changed the landscape of college sports forever. So, that's really how I feel about the game. And now I want to talk about Dusty May and how what he has been able to do at Michigan. Michigan was 8-24 before he took over in 2023, and how bad Juwan Howard was a coach. And a couple years ago, if you guys remember this, Dusty May took FAU to the Final Four with Golden, Elijah Martin, and John L. Davis. And then he gets to Michigan, and things completely change. And you know what? I don't think Dusty May is going anywhere. I had this conversation with my friend last night. Dante and I were talking about this. I don't see I don't see Dusty May going anywhere. He's on the books right now for $4.5 to $5 million. He is going to get extended by Michigan. He turned down NBA jobs. He turned down the UNC job. And why the hell would you take that job if you were Dusty May from UNC or jump to the NBA? Michigan has a ton of money in NIL. And now, of course, this report came out Sunday night, but this is now after the national championship. Why in the hell would you leave? They're going to extend him. And good for Dusty May for wanting to stay there. He says, I want to build my legacy here. I'm not jumping ship. Why in the heck would you go to an NBA team for more money, for more recognition, for more notoriety? Listen, the NBA is the NBA, right? Like, you look at the NBA landscape with the top teams with coaches, the Celtics, the Thunder, the Spurs, the Nuggets, like those top teams, the Timberwolves, the Lakers, like those teams there, the Pistons, the Cavs, like all the top teams in the East and West, those coaches aren't going anywhere. So you want to go put yourself in a dumpster fire type position with the Pelicans, the Grizzlies, the Wizards, the Kings. Why would you want to go do that? Okay, maybe you say, okay, I want at the college level. I want to go try to win at the highest level now. But why would you go put yourself into that mess when you just want a title? You have a bunch of money in NIL. Look what you just did with the recruits, with the transfer portal. You're like the king of the transfer portal at the moment. Like, will that ever be done in college basketball in my lifetime? 5 starting transfers to win a title and never been done? I don't know. I don't know how you can beat that. That's insane. And of course, people are going to try to discredit that and debunk that because they bought their roster. But that's the name of college basketball now. I respect it. I have no problem with it. It's utilized. You're allowed to do it. It's not cheating. You're taking advantage of it. Why not use your opportunity? So I have no problem with it. But overall, I thought it was a great game. It was really enjoyable to watch. Michigan beat UConn, and I'm just very happy that UConn lost. Thank God Dan Hurley and UConn got humbled. I'm a New England guy. That's where I was born, but I wasn't rooting for UConn. It has nothing to do with the Patriots, Celtics, Red Sox, Bruins, or anything like that. UConn has had their success. They went back-to-back in 23 and 24. The first team to do it since the Gators in 06 and 07. They were 6-0 in tournament or in championship play before last night. Jim Calhoun won his fair share, of course. Hurley won his back-to-back. It's like you get to the championship. I was talking to my friend about this, Nick, we were talking about this last night. You get to the championship enough, you're going to lose. And I looked up before the show, coaches that have never lost in championship play, professional sports or just collegiate sports. Of course, you had Jim Calhoun never lost. You had Chuck Noll. I looked up there. Harbaugh never lost at the college level when he, of course, 1-0. Other coaches as well. But still, like, you get there enough, you're going to lose. Bill Belichick has losses on his resume. We're talking about coaches here. So, like, it was inevitable for Michigan to win this title. All right, guys, I think we're done with the whole college basketball part of Michigan winning the title. We can briefly talk about the Final Four from leading into the championship. Of course, we just talked about Illinois losing to UConn. I thought UConn was the better team. You got to give Keaton Wagler credit where credit is due. Freshman player, he balled out in that game against UConn. Hitting the big three at the end there, cutting the lead. But UConn was the better team. Of course, and that's why when I said UConn beats Duke, they're going the title game. And then of course you flip to the second game of the night, Saturday night, when Michigan dismantled Arizona. I mean, they beat Arizona like they were standing still. And that's when I said, I was like, okay, if Michigan's beating Arizona by this much, they're going to handle UConn when these two teams play each other. But then, of course, Lendeborg got hurt against Arizona. We didn't know if he was even going to come back for the rest of the game, and fans were worried. But they dismantled Arizona. I mean, the talent that Arizona had, too. Koa Pete, Karchenkov, Braden Burries, Jaden Bradley, Tommy Lloyd had those guys playing amazing. The big man they had there as well. They were, arguably one of the most dominant teams in college basketball this entire season next to Michigan. Of course, they beat Florida on opening night. They were, a juggernaut all year long, but Michigan, I mean, that team will go down as one of the best teams in the recent modern era of college basketball for the tournament play, for just the amount of points that they dropped every single game. You scored 90 against Alabama. You scored 90 against St. Louis. You scored 90 against Arizona. That was just remarkable what they were able to do. Now, they didn't have that recipe against UConn last night. It's the national championship, the jitters. They didn't shoot well. UConn, give them credit for the defensive effort that they put on display. But just going back to the Arizona game, you dismantled a 1 seed like that, and your best player wasn't even fully healthy. This team was a team of destiny. Got to give credit to Elliot Cadeau, of course, most outstanding player in the tournament as well. But yeah, man, I thought it was awesome to wrap up with the Final Four, and of course, leading into the championship. So we talked about that. The next thing we'll get into. We talked about that with Michigan here. The next thing I wanted to bring up on the podcast is Michael Malone taking the UNC job. Well, if you guys don't know this, Michael Malone hasn't coached in college basketball since 2001 when he coached at Manhattan. Of course, his last stint was with the Denver Nuggets when he won the title there, and he was fired. But when I saw this yesterday, I was like, huh? What? And then I thought to myself, UNC is taking a gamble, they're taking a wild card. But also at the same time, that means that other coaches in the NBA or just college basketball in general didn't want the job. And I think people have to realize that stepping in the shoes of a UNC type role, Hubert Davis was just fired after a couple seasons and he made a national championship appearance in 2022. They probably would have finished better if Caleb Wilson didn't get hurt. That's another thing there. They get top recruits, but coaches probably don't want to step in the shoes of a Roy Williams, a Dean Smith, that because the success that you're supposed to have there, it's a lot of pressure. The pressure cooker is high. I don't blame Dusty May for not wanting to take that job. I don't think Todd Golden's going to take the job. Otzelberger for Iowa State, I thought that was the name. Nate Oates got extended by Alabama. So now you resort to your next option and you go, well, there's Michael Malone out there for the NBA. He just finished his stint with the Nuggets. Let's try to poach him to college. He doesn't have really I don't think anyone really wanted him in the NBA. If you're getting fired by the Nuggets, who really wants you, right? Okay, so now they take that stab. And now you have Belichick in the football landscape there as well. I think UNC sports is a mess right now. I really do. Michael Malone, I'm not saying it's a bad hire. It's a very interesting hire. Like when you think about it and you sit there and you go, huh? What? Like, okay, is he going to be able to recruit at the highest level with college kids? UNC is always going to get the recruits. But you know what? I think it just goes to show you no college coach wanted that job. And I don't blame them. Listen, yes, money is on the table. They can pay any coach whatever they want. They have the money in NIL. But if you couldn't get one of those big fish in college basketball, then you resort to Michael Malone. So I'd probably give it like a 78 grade. To be honest with you, Billy Donovan's name, of course, was linked to UNC. That's a no-go there. Tommy Lloyd, of course, was just extended by Arizona. So, like, there are all these coaches out there. But these coaches, these schools at these programs said, no, you're not taking my coach. I'm extending our coach for what he's been able to do, the success he's had here. Nate Oates, Tommy Lloyd. Golden's going to get an extension from Florida here, I'm sure, in the next couple of weeks. Dusty May is about to get extended from Michigan as well. So then they resort to Michael Malone. But of course, he has a championship ring and he's got 510 NBA wins. So maybe that translates down to the level of college basketball. He's coached at the highest level, and now he finds himself back in the shoes where he was in college basketball in 2001. Total different landscape. But he's going to find out really fast how important NIL is and how big it is to recruit in the transfer portal and how big it is to be able to keep your players. You already had players enter the portal. It's the name of the game now. So welcome to college basketball, Michael Malone. I wish you luck. So the next thing I wanted to talk about, briefly we'll talk about Nate Oates' thing at Alabama. This was a no-brainer for Alabama. Their athletic director was like, no, you are not taking my coach. And I don't think Nate Oates even wanted to entertain those offers. He was at Buffalo before. He's built a powerhouse at Alabama. Alabama was never known for basketball before he got there. They've had some talent. Of course, you saw Brandon Miller go to the NBA. LeBaron Philon's going to be going to the NBA next. Other guys too as well. So, this quote here from Nate Oates, he goes, the high school coach quote, excuse me. I love this from Nate Oates. When asked about the UNC rumors, he said, I'm a high school coach that caught a couple of breaks. There's absolutely no reason to leave here. He's built a culture at Alabama. He's rivaled the Blue Bloods. Exactly, he has. And what's remarkable about how he's been able to do it is being in the conversation with the Dukes, with the Yukons, with the North Carolinas. And I think it's remarkable what he's been able to do there. He's pending board approval. He's moving into the $7 million to $9 million range. He joins the elite tier with the Bill Selfs and the Calipari. Exactly. So the next part of the show, we'll briefly talk about the NFL. Well, of course, you guys saw last week Kirk Cousins was signed by the Las Vegas Raiders, and he's there to mentor Fernando Mendoza. I don't know if Kirk Cousins is going to last an entire season. He probably will. But Mendoza, if he's not starting by week 1, he's starting by week 2, week 3, week 4, something in there. But hey, man, you got to give Kirk Cousins' agent credit for what he's been able to do. I mean, the amount of money that he's been able to get Kirk Cousins his entire career, and Kirk Cousins is like an average quarterback at best, is like, I need an agent like that to pitch. I need an agent like that to pitch me to big sports brands or companies so somebody can sign my podcast. That's how I feel. Fully guaranteed contract for 11 consecutive seasons. He's officially on pace to pass Brady, second time all-time career in earnings. I don't think it's a bad move by the Vikings. I don't think it's a bad move for the Raiders to sign Kirk Cousins to help him out there as time goes on for Fernando Mendoza. Let him mold, let him sit. Of course you can have the conversation of should Fernando Mendoza start week 1? Should Kirk Cousins start week 1? I love it there. It's no really quarterback competition. I think it's good for a veteran quarterback to teach a guy like a Fernando Mendoza. I don't have a problem with it there. But of course, Kubiak and Kirk Cousins, they're reuniting. Of course, when Kubiak was in Minnesota with Kirk, made two Pro Bowls. He's 37 years old. He's a veteran. I don't know what, like I said on the podcast about a month ago when I was talking about it, when the Falcons were potentially going to be releasing Kirk Cousins, he might find himself back in Minnesota, maybe Pittsburgh. But now he finds a home for the Raiders, and Kirk Cousins is not an ego guy. I think he's going to be more than happy to mentor a guy like Fernando Mendoza, and I think it's going to work out for both parties. All right, the next thing we'll talk about in the NFL briefly is Sexy Dexy, the Sexy Dexy segment. Dexter Lawrence, also known as Sexy Dexy, has requested a trade from the New York Giants. And Billy and I were talking about this, my friend Billy, we were talking about this yesterday. Well, of course, in 2023, the Giants extended Dexter Lawrence, but the defensive tackle market isn't big like that. So I don't think the Giants, I don't think they have a problem with moving on from Dexter Lawrence. I think there's plenty of teams that want him, but I don't think Dexter Lawrence is worth a first-round pick. I know he's on the books. He's in 2023, they extended him. He was the third highest paid D tackle in the league. While he signed his 4-year, $90 million deal, of course, in 2023, that was when he was considered one of the best nose tackles in the NFL. But the Giants have had concerns with him about his work ethic, about his effort, showing up to practice. Even legends like Carl Banks have even questioned his work ethic, his feel for the game. And I think a D tackle I think he's a good D tackle. I don't think he's worth that kind of money. I understand the market. Of course, you just saw Ozi Odighizuwa traded to the Niners, and he's on the books for a big contract. So yes, I understand the salary cap has gone up, but if the Giants can get me a second for him, I'd throw him. If you can get a third, I'd throw him. If they can, they're going to try to see if they can get a late first. Or I don't think he's worth the first. I don't think they're going to get a first from him. I'm thinking maybe in the second to third range there. But listen, if they want to trade him, I think they really should move on from him. I don't think he's not getting any younger. Of course, and he was bad last year. So he didn't record a full sack in his last 22 games. He didn't record a sack in his last 22 games. Of course, he's been injured. And he was frustrated with the play calling last year. Maybe Harbaugh comes in and he can change that for him, but maybe the relationship has come to an end in the Big Apple for Dexter Lawrence. I don't see a problem with moving on from him. You have younger guys on the roster. You're getting the 5th pick. If he's going to be a problem in the locker room or he's going to be an issue, and maybe he just wants a new contract and he's trying to do this for leverage, but I don't have a problem with the Giants moving on from him. He's a defensive tackle. He's not a defensive end. He's not an offensive lineman. I understand nose tackle, the interior is an important position in the NFL. But if you can get a good draft pick for him, or if you can get a good pick for him, I would do it. 100%. So the next thing I wanted to talk about, well, of course, you had the NFL league meetings last week. And I know I'm bringing up A.J. Brown back on the podcast. I know. Some people have been giving me heat for it on social media, and I totally understand. You guys are allowed to give me any sort of heat you want. This is the space that I signed up for. But I will say this again and again and again. A.J. Brown will not be on the Eagles after June 1st. I don't think he will. I really don't. Howie Roseman and the Eagles, if he was supposed to be on the Eagles, he would have came out at the league meetings and said, A.J. Brown will not be traded. He is a member of the Eagles next season. All he said was my answer to any question on A.J. Brown is he's a member of the Eagles from my perspective. Anything you ask me about A.J. Brown, I'm going to get right back to that answer. Listen, I understand Eagles fans don't think he's going anywhere, but I'm going to tell you this right now. Like I said beforehand, that cap hit becomes half of what it is after June 1st. And all Howie Roseman had to do was to say, A.J. Brown won't be traded. He's going to be on the Eagles next season. But he didn't do that. And that's why we are talking about this. Listen, I think there's only one team left as a suitor for A.J. Brown. And I think you guys know exactly what I'm going to say. The New England Patriots. Okay, you want to say the Chargers in the mix as well, but I don't see that. I think A.J. Brown at this point in his career, he wants to play for the Patriots. It's very obvious. I'm not going to go down the list or the scroll of how many times that we've said A.J. Brown wants to be a Patriot. Listen, notice how he didn't say AJ is our guy for 2026. How does that make AJ Brown feel? We haven't heard anything from AJ Brown in the last couple of weeks, but I think after June 1st comes around, I think teams will be calling. And I think right now it is like just pushed aside. It is like, nope, not right now. We'll focus on it at a later date. It's like you have a paper or you have an assignment due at the end of the semester. You've been told about it since January 1st. The semester ends April 22nd. Well, here you go. I'm going to tell you guys this. Well, that means that we're going to push it to the side for now. We know about the due date. We know when A.J. Brown's salary cap hit changes post June 1st. It is reduced basically in half. It just shrink. It goes from here to here. So if Howie Roseman wanted to kill the rumors, he could have done that last week. But of course, he keeps you on your toes, and I don't blame him. He doesn't owe anyone an explanation, but that's what it makes you think to yourself, and you go, he's not going to be a member of the Eagles. If Howie Roseman is saying that, then again, of course, you can play the other card and go, what team would want A.J. Brown? He's a locker room problem. He's a head case. He has declined. He's not the same receiver. He's still young, but he demands the ball. He's a diva. You for any team, not just the Patriots, and you're taking on that big contract too. That's another thing as well. So it's a risk. So at this point, it is getting just drawn out at this point. It's like, let's just after June 1st, just make the move or not. All you got to do is come out and say A.J. Brown will be on the Eagles next season. And then that's it. Then the rumors die. Everything gets shut down. The lights get shut off. The electric bill that you didn't pay, the lights get shut off. That's all you got to do. That's all you got to do, Howie. That's all you got to do. All right, the next thing I wanted to talk about briefly, of course, in the NBA, we talked about Michael Malone in college basketball. He was linked to the Pelicans. Why the hell would you want to take a job from the Pelicans? They're one of the worst franchises in the NBA. Yeah, I know they have Zion Williamson, Herb Jones, and DeJounte Murray. But listen, why the heck would you want to put yourself in that position? I don't blame Michael Malone. I would have much rather taken the UNC job over the Pelicans job. So I don't really have a whole lot to say on this here, but he shot that down right away, and I don't blame him. The Pelicans have been in a tailspin since, of course, when they fired Willie Green. Interim coach James Borrego did what he could, but the Pelicans have been a mess. I understand they drafted a cornerstone player in Zion Williamson, but Zion Williamson's play has not translated to wins. I know they made the play in a couple seasons ago, but and nothing has really translated for them. So I know they drafted Anthony Davis years ago, but nothing has really ever worked out for the Pelicans. So maybe they in the lottery this year it works out for them and they get lucky in the lottery. Who knows? I don't know, but it sucks being the Pelicans, right? You have the talent, the roster, and you have a head coach returning to the league, and he goes, "No, I'm going to college instead." You're going to college for the NBA. You're leaving the NBA. You were fired, of course, by the Nuggets, and you're going to college. Oh, well, the Pelicans are a dumpster fire. So I don't blame them. I really don't. All right. The next thing we'll talk about on the show is of course, I was a former Lakers fan, but not even really about that. It's the fact that they have just been riddled by injuries. Of course, Luka Doncic is now most likely out for the season. He's going to Spain for treatment. I don't think Luka's coming back. I really don't. And now Austin Reeves is out for the season as well. His timeline is 6 to 8 weeks. He's got the oblique strain. And of course, Luka Doncic, you saw the injury against the Thunder, and you as soon as you saw it, you were like, oh yeah, he knew it was non-contact. I feel really bad for Luka and the Lakers. I really do. Even just as a sports fan, because Luka Doncic is one of the most electrifying players to watch in all sports in the NBA. 15-3 record in the month of March. And he only played 64 games, so he's not going to qualify for any NBA honor and NBA league awards. Of course, first team, he's not going to win MVP. It's going to go to Shea. His agent, his team was trying to push that down because he missed 2 games because of the birth of his child, of course. So there's that as well. But you really feel bad because it would have been fun to watch the Lakers in a first round series. I mean, Luka was hitting his stride. I mean, he hit 37. He was averaging 37 points per game in the month of March. And now the shoulders or the weight falls on the GOAT LeBron James, 41 years old. He had 30 points against the Mavericks on Sunday night, and LeBron isn't going to be carrying the Lakers to a first-round series win. I would be very shocked to see if Luka Doncic comes back. I doubt Austin Reeves comes back. There's not much time. The NBA playoffs begin next weekend. The Lakers are the 3 seed right now. Anything can happen between 3, 4, 5, 6. Like that could all flip-flop there. Rockets, Nuggets, Timberwolves, Lakers, Rockets, Nuggets, Timberwolves, those 4 teams could all flip-flop to take that three spot. So who knows? But listen, I really think that it's going to be very hard to watch LeBron James at 41 years old put up empty stats and get swept in the first round. It's going to be really hard. It's not LeBron's fault. It would have been really fun to watch the Lakers in a first round series. They lost to the Timberwolves last year in 5 games. Of course, the Rudy Gobert, Jackson Hayes, like they couldn't figure out the big man situation. And then of course they went and signed DeAndre Ayton this past offseason. They thought that would solve their woes. Ayton has been much better, but Luka's the engine. He's the motor for that team. And yes, he definitely deserves to be in the MVP conversation for what he's been able to do this entire season. I mean, it's just been, you just got to feel for the Lakers. LeBron's 41 years old. So the next man up, we'll see what they're able to do. I really don't see it. I think it'll be very painful to watch the Lakers, or it'll be painful to watch LeBron James go out as a Laker at 41 years old and try to carry this Lakers team and potentially most likely get swept in the first round. That's how I'm feeling. And then I think that this series for LeBron James will be his last time in purple and gold for the Lakers. Either he retires, but I don't think that. LeBron's doing a farewell retirement tour. And maybe the Cavs make the call and say, LeBron, we want you to finish your last season in Cleveland. Come home and do it. That's how I'm feeling. But the Lakers in the month of March were 15-3. That's absolutely insane. And then, of course, they were the hottest team in basketball. Then Luka gets hurt, and then they lose to the Mavericks. So, I mean, listen. On Monday, the Lakers' hopes went international. They did. Luka's now in Spain. I really don't see it. It's a 4 to 6 week injury. The doctors are going to do whatever they can, but I really don't see it. And then, of course, like I said, Austin Reeves gets hurt, but I'm very, very tough. The next thing we'll briefly talk about on the show is Angel Reese being traded from the Chicago Sky to the Atlanta Dream for 2 first-round picks. We made a clip about this yesterday of giving you guys just a quick clip about it. We'll talk about it. And this doesn't have anything to do with Caitlin Clark because that was part of the clip yesterday. Angel Reese is not a franchise player. She's not a cornerstone player. She's in her third season. This is her third season coming up. I understand she's a two-time All-Star. She's one of the best rebounders in the WNBA. But a 10-34 record doesn't translate to rebounds. I was trying to explain that to people last night on social media. But hey, good for the Atlanta Dream and good for the Chicago Sky. I think it'll work out for both parties. But Angel Reese will not be the number one option on the Atlanta Dream. You have Rand Howard, Brittany Griner. So she won't be that option for them. And good for the Chicago Sky. They figured we have Cardoso. We're going to try to go into the draft and try to get somebody that we can actually build around. Angel Reese is she's not a championship caliber type player. She is not changing the game of the WNBA. She's not, I'm bringing up Caitlin Clark. She's not Caitlin Clark. She's not Paige Becker. She's not Asia Wilson. She just doesn't have that effect to her game. And it's not a bad thing. Not everybody can be Batman. It's okay to be a Robin. Not everybody can be the 1A. It's okay to be 1B. There's nothing wrong with that. And that's fine. She's a good player in the WNBA, but she's not top 5. She's not a superstar. I don't care if she's a two-time All-Star. I don't think she'll. And in these upcoming years, I doubt she will finish top in the MVP voting. Caitlin Clark finished 4th in MVP voting. She won Rookie of the Year. Paige Beckers won Rookie of the Year last year. Now, these are two players, Beckers and Clark, that I'm comparing to Reese, are completely different. Their game is completely different. They're way more effective on the court. Do you think Paige Beckers or Caitlin Clark or Asia Wilson or anyone on that level, mainly Beckers and Clark, would get traded for 2 first-round picks coming up in their second or third season in the WNBA? Absolutely not. There's a reason why that Beckers and Clark have set records that she has. And people telling me out there that rebounds are that important, well, clearly they're not that important because they didn't translate to wins for the Chicago Sky last year when they finished 10-34. So you guys can make whatever argument you want about Clark and Reese and Beckers, whatever you guys want. But Reese doesn't even compare to those two players. She's not a franchise player that you build around. You don't go and trade a superstar player if you don't trade a superstar player in a case like that. And she's not a superstar player. Now, of course, Luka Doncic was traded for Anthony Davis, bringing up the NBA. There's been other trades in the past. Those are completely different. Those are franchise players that you build around. Reese is not that type of player. She's just not. But listen, last season was rough. And hey, maybe, she didn't officially or formally request a trade, but they figured, well, we can get 2 first-round picks. We're a terrible team. We're getting these 2 first-rounder picks. We're going to get another top pick in the WNBA. Why not stay in that boat there? Dump off Angel Reese. Bye-bye, Shy Barbie. So listen, Angel Reese is happy. Good for her. The full trade is Reese and the right to swap 2028 second-round picks to Atlanta, to Chicago, the 2027 and 28 first-round picks. Atlanta thinks that they think by getting a player like Reese as a solid player or a above average player, of course she's a 2-time All-Star, they figure, oh, well, that maybe puts us into championship contention, or that's what they think. And it's not a bad thing, but she's not going to. Angel Reese is not a player that's going to give you 40 and 10 on a night. And I know that's a big stat line, but like Asia Wilson, look at her numbers. She's not on that level. Asia Wilson's a 4-time WNBA MVP. I shouldn't be comparing her. All I'm saying is that type of player, because she's a rebounder, she's a scorer, I don't know, I think she's an 18-10 or 17-10 type of player per person. She's not super efficient. She's a good player, but she's not changing your franchise. So have fun, Atlanta. The next thing I wanted to talk about, the last part of the show, is the MLB. Oh my gosh, the Red Sox are 2-8. And yeah, it's been really tough to watch. But for a second, just pause, hit the button on the remote and click pause. All the fans at Fenway this past weekend, shame on you. Sell the team. Are you serious? How embarrassing is that? I understand John Henry and the Red Sox haven't won a championship since 2018. But do you realize the Red Sox have the most championships in the 21st century in the modern era in baseball? 04, 07, 13, and 18. The Dodgers have 3. I understand that. The Giants have 3. The Yankees have 1. The Phillies have 1. The Astros have 2. But to sell the team, do you understand this Red Sox team? I understand the payroll that they have and the players they're not exceeding expectations. They're not living up to what they have been. Crochet was terrible in his start against the Astros. Ranger Suarez, you went and paid $130 million for him. He's been terrible. Roman Anthony hasn't been good yet. He's batting 260s in there. He's 21 years old. The players haven't lived up to it yet, but still they're 2-8. It's it'd be different if the Red Sox were 2-30 or like 2-20 by 22 or 32 games in. They're 2-8. They've played 3 series. And another thing too, they haven't figured it out yet. They're still a very young team. Rafaela's young. Durant is only 20. Durant's 29. He's on the older veteran side for the younger group core. Meyer, Roman Anthony, like Connolly early. Like there's a lot of young guys on this team. Listen, I understand they're not exceeding expectations, but Boston fans, hold your horses. Listen, I'm a Patriots fan through and through. I just became a Red Sox fan, but I never forgot the championships that they won with Ortiz, with Pedroia, with Pedro Martinez, with those teams there. But that was then. I understand this is now. But the fact that you're sitting there, how spoiled can you be? New England sports fans are the most spoiled fans in all of sports. Whenever they don't win a title, and I understand you pay the money for the players. You're not on the pay. You don't have the payroll like the Yankees or the Dodgers. I understand that. But you got to give the Red Sox a little bit of time. This is a young team. I know I said before the season they could be a World Series contender. I strongly believe that. They have the pitching. They just have to figure it out. The bullpen's been very shaky, but you can't have your cake and eat it too, right? The opening series, they were terrible with runs. They couldn't score any runs. And now against the Brewers and the Padres, they started scoring runs. So I think they're going to figure out, but it's going to take time. But to sit there and say, chant sell the team at Fenway, I mean, absolutely. Patriots fans did this too when we had the Mac Jones era. Like, we've just been so spoiled as Boston sports fans. You want to bring up UConn into this conversation. They just made the national title, their 3rd appearance in 4 years. They were 6-0. They're 6-1 in title games. The Bruins haven't won a title since 2011. The Celtics have won in 08 and 24. The Patriots have 6 Super Bowls in the 21st century. It's like, listen, I get it, but you got to give this team a little bit of time. And people are of course, going to say, you're not a true fan if you don't think that, or John Henry's, his time has expired. It's like, they're 2-8. They're not 2-30. They're not 2-40. And they were competitive with the Brewers last night. They lost 8-6. And I know they blew another lead. I totally understand that. I watched most of the game. It was hard to watch. They blew another lead. They blew a lead to the Padres. The bullpen has been shaky. But listen, I know they have the worst record in the MLB, but I think they're in a better position than the White Sox or the A's or the White Sox or the A's. I really do. I think there's a lot of time left, and it'd be different if they were getting blown out like 10-0, 11-0, but they've been in most of these games. I know they got bombed by the Astros, I'm pretty sure 1 or 2 games, but like, they've been in these games. And like, listen, I know Sonny Gray hasn't done anything yet. Ranger Suarez has been shaky, but also another young name too. Bayo. Brian Bayo is still really young. Brian Bayo, Roman Anthony, Rafaela, Meyer, early. Like, there's Willie Abreu, and like there's a lot of young guys on this team, and there's only 10 games in. Listen, guys, I get it. I understand the frustration. This is their worst start since 2019. I get it. I'm with you, but give them some credit. The sell the team things is ridiculous. It's embarrassing. It's a mockery on the franchise. It really is. You have won 4 titles, and that's the most in the 21st century. Like, I understand, 04, 07, 13, and 18. Those titles were then, and this is now. But like, I understand the expectations are always high going into every New England, every Boston sports team season. I get that, but give them a little bit of break. And listen, if the wheels continue to fall off, I will probably 80%, maybe not that high. I would confidently say Alex Cora would probably be gone. I really would. But then again, they just made the wild card last year and they won 89 games. And you're in competition with the Dodgers and the Yankees and the Phillies and that with that payroll there. Yeah, I know you signed Ranger Suarez. I know you signed Crochet last year. Listen, I get it. But this team is in the mix of like young and old. They've got some older guys and they got some younger guys. I think they're going to figure it out. I do. But the sell the team stuff is ridiculous. It's so embarrassing. It's like, whenever I see that, it's like, you're the Red Sox. You're one of the most notable franchises in all of sports. You have 9 World Series titles. I understand you got 4 this 21st century, but still. Listen, guys, I mean, John Henry's on the hot seat. He's owned the team since 2001 and they've won 4 rings. But listen, I get it. It's what have you done for me lately? I totally understand that. He was successful then. What have you done? The questionable decisions that they made, right? They traded for Caleb Durbin. They got rid of Alex Bregman. But I understand there's no salary cap in baseball, but there's only so many guys you can pay. And, without being hit by the luxury tax, you're paying Crochet, you're paying Suarez, you just signed Roman Anthony to a contract extension. So you're paying Yoshida, like you're paying these guys, and I get the production is not putting it out there yet. Listen, there's a lot of friction right now. You just paid Wilson Contreras as well. So listen, there's a lot to it. But guys, on that note, I think on there it is. They have the Red Sox have a $256 million payroll. So that's a lot of money. Maybe I got a little too ahead of myself. That's a lot of money. I understand you're understanding to be frustrated at 2-8, but there's a lot of time left. And that's exactly what I'll say. But I think on that note, guys, that really does it. The last thing I wanted to talk about was, of course, Joe Adell's robbing 3 home runs. One of the, I don't know how, in this modern era, that is probably the greatest defensive performance in MLB history in the modern era. I'm sure there's other games you can go back and look, but now to think about that is insane. Robbing 3 home runs, and here you go. And he robbed it in the first inning, the second, and then the third was in the 8th. But, I mean, just absolutely insane. Since MLB started tracking home run robberies in 2004, no one had ever done this 3 times in a game. So yeah, you can very well say that this is the greatest defensive performance ever. He literally saved 3 runs in a game. The Angels won by 1. He single-handedly basically won the game for the Angels. Remarkable. He didn't play right field. He was a scoreboard. On that note, guys, that does it for us. I greatly appreciate you guys tuning into another episode. We'll give you the quick rundown of what we hit on the show. We talked about Michigan against UConn. We talked briefly about the Final Four, Dusty May and how great of a coach he's been at Michigan. Michigan's first title since 1989. The Red Sox being 2-8. The whole sell the team chance at Fenway. We talked about Michael Malone being hired by the North Carolina Tar Heels. Briefly talked about the NFL with Kirk Cousins and how he's now in the Las Vegas Raiders. We talked about Dexter Lawrence and the trade situation there, if that's going to be happening. And then we shifted to A.J. Brown, about him and how Howie Roseman hasn't officially come out and said that A.J. Brown is not being traded. That was another topic we talked about. And then, great college basketball season. Hats off to Michigan. Shout out to my friends on winning their title. They won in football in 2023, and then they followed up in 2026 with a basketball title. And then they might be winning the Frozen Four that as well. So Michigan's been a powerhouse as of late. But guys, as always, thank you for tuning in to another episode. I greatly appreciate it. As remembered, it's always Mamba mentality. Make sure to follow us on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts. Have a great week, guys. We'll see you next week.